Join my hunt, fairy, and obey me. Don't want to draw any attention. Dead.
Hey dudes and dudettes, some of you may experience difficulties with clearing the goblin camp bosses, so let me help you a little bit with the approach. You will reach this area at level 3 or 4, so I'll be using a party of level 4. If you're level 5 going into this fight, it will be even easier to execute. But let's assume you're not power leveling. My group will be Shadowheart, Gale and Will, because he has some special dialogue in this area for his personal quest. We will take out the leaders in this order: Pristess Gut, Minthara and finally Ragzlin, because killing Ragzlin makes all the goblins hostile, which will prevent you from setting up the battlefield or talking to any of them to farm up some dopamine. If you're a min-maxer and want to have the option to sleep with all of your companions in the celebration, make sure that you talk to every goblin before cleansing their camp, to let your companions believe that you're simping, just so you can deny their advances, because you're too focused on the grind and you're not gonna let some distractions turn you into a Coomer, no matter how much the Space Frog wants you. Remember to hydrate with sparkling water to level up your Sigma stat, and let's kick some goblin ass. Davai! You don't need any specific items, gear or specialization for this, but it's helpful if you have the Grease and Thunderwave spells prepared on Gale, as well as some enhanced gear from the shops. To prove my point, I'm only using the starting gear for each character. I won't even add any extra potions. We will go through technically 3 easy ways to kill Gut, 2 for Minthara and 2 for Ragzlin, since there's a lot of flexibility with the mechanics, which is a diplomatic way of saying combat is balanced as f***, and I want to give options to the players with a slightly different moral compass. Pristess Gut is the easiest of them since you can isolate her and burst her down, and we can't go in fireballs blazing at level 4. Enter the camp and suggest that she help you with the condition that you have by seeking out a word in private. She'll take you to a room and lock the door behind, because she doesn't want your friends to watch the intimacy between you two.
Pristess Gut needs to touch you too.
Poems are made by fools like me.
She will offer a cure and hand you a potion. Ultimately, you have 2 options from here: drink it or attack her. Drinking it as an elf, half-elf or drow won't work due to being immune to the effects, so we'll go with attacking first. Gather your party outside the door and start the conversation with her. Use the character select feature and sneak Detroit the drum from far when the patrol is away. If a goblin plays the drum, the whole area will turn hostile. You're not that big of a masochist, so you don't want that. Go around the door or lockpick so that you can get inside while she's still talking to you. Use Bless from Shadowheart on Will, Gale and herself, go behind Gut and stand a little further away to time the attacks. While sneaked, this gives you an advantage on your attacks, and the power of friendship gives you a random chance of +1 through 4 to hit. Use Inflict Wounds from Shadowheart and a basic melee attack from Will, and any magic damage from a single target spell from Gale. This is the starting attack combination that we're going for, and I'll refer to it in the future as the Alpha Strike combo. The effect that we want is to surprise Gut while having the full party rolling for initiative at the same time in the system, because if the characters don't attack all at once, the system will start the round and put the characters that attacked later in the second round. That's why we're using a melee attack from Will, so that it's easier to execute while having basically no mechanical agility. This combination should outright kill her or bring her below half health. You will get a second round to attack with all of your characters, and the fight should be over using any attacks. However, beware of her call for reinforcements if she survives, because she will call for them as soon as she gets a turn. If by some chance you miss most of your attacks and she calls for the reinforcements, move your party closer to Gut's private door with Shadowheart in the front. The goblins will run through the door if it's unlocked and try to get into melee range, while you pick them off with ranged attacks. The second similar way to eliminate Gut is to drink the potion. This will put you to sleep, and Gut will bring you to her dungeon to gut you. You can either let her try by not resisting, which will get rid of her and the bodyguard, or you can gut her instead. Bring your party across in the room and unlock the door with Shadowheart. Sneak to Gut and use the Alpha Strike combo to start the fight again. You might face the ogre if you fail to get rid of her in one turn. For that fight, get on the high ground, grease up the area, and maybe drop the roof for some extra damage. Loot their bodies and take note of the Zenturium stash through the crack in Gut's room. You may want to get the gold and use the barrels for what comes next. Alternatively, the easiest way to do this is to simply click dialogue options. There aren't even skill checks, you have plot armor, so don't worry about that. Follow what Gut is telling you by drinking the potion, don't struggle when you're tied up, and let her have her way with you. A mysterious stranger will appear out of nowhere and save you. The downside is that you miss out on some extra experience, but you still get all the loot. I'm a fan of the new Divine rebranding as a level 6 paladin for the Drow. She is slightly more dangerous than Gut since she has 3 stronger guards beside her. But let's make this look easy as well. Before we start, please note that if you approach Spike with Will in your party, there's a bug where the goblin next to Spike will travel to Minthara and be hostile if you decide to turn on Spike in the conversation. This will make talking to Minthara with the same character impossible. To avoid this, enter turn-based mode just before approaching Spike so that the NPC movement during the dialogue is frozen and continue in whichever direction you want to take the conversation. There are 3 environmental advantages to note at Minthara's location and a drum for the goblins to call reinforcements. There are big holes around the battlefield where you can push people to meet their gods, one being slightly blocked with the destructible bridge support. There is a high ground across from Minthara's stable, and there are a few sources of fire to get that extra damage in when dipping a weapon. I'm not a fan of pushing NPCs into pits since we lose the loot, so I'm going to avoid that method here, but know that you have the option. Position 3 of your characters just below the high ground, place 1 smoke powder barrel right after the bridge, and enter turn-based mode. Bless yourself with the power of friendship and go talk to Minthara. Give her all the information about the grove and comfort Will that you are only trying to trick Minthara by setting up a trap in the grove. Once you exit turn-based mode, Minthara will start walking towards the bridge. Move your characters up on the high ground and blast the barrel with Shadowheart's Firebolt when Minthara is next to it. This will blow up the support for the bridge and deal about 20 to 30 damage to whoever is around. It will create a fire surface for 2 turns so that the goblin AI is discouraged to jump over it, and it will cut off any reinforcements that might be coming until you finish off Minthara in a 4 vs 1 fight. If there is a goblin left on your side of the bridge, finish it off quickly or destroy the jump to prevent alerting the whole camp that you're there. The goblins over the bridge will start to use weak ranged attacks, giving you the time to focus on Minthara and get her loot afterwards. You can destroy the goblins that are left in any way that you wish. I prefer to dip my weapons in fire and simply trade basic ranged attacks since ours have higher damage. Alternatively, if you're a little bit chaotic, you may want to simply destroy the support for the bridge when she's walking on it after you give her information about the grove. You will lose her items, but the quest will still be updated. And whatever path you choose, remember to pick up the boots from her chest. Ragzlin is a little bit trickier than the rest, since he's surrounded by a lot of goblins with low health and their weakness is an area of effect damage. There is 1 drum in the room that you can sneakily destroy before the fight and continue on with the strategies. There are 2 barrels on the upper level behind Ragzlin, but I'm not going to use them. I'm just letting you know if you want to incorporate them at any point in these methods. Take note of 4 key elements in this fight and you will have an easy time beating this boss if you utilize just 2 of them. 1. There is a spider pit extremely close to the goblins and you can push them inside to feed the spiders. 2. There is fire on the ceiling and fire sources on the ground. You can use this to enhance your weapons and set the goblins on fire. 3. There is another level above the room that you can access through a ladder and shoot down the goblins. The goblins either have weak range attacks or none at all. The goblins and Ragzlin will spend their turns trying to get to you in melee range, but you can use the elevation to push them off and deal massive damage. Lastly, the goblin positions are spread out and weak individually, which means that you can lead them all towards one choke point and create a difficult or dangerous terrain while you're on the safe side waiting to end their evil hopes and dreams. For these 2 methods, I'll be utilizing the fire elevation and spider pits. Before starting any method, destroy the drum so that the goblins don't call for reinforcements, and break into Ragzlin's private stash to get a wonderful item for Shadowheart. Ragzlin has an ability which increases the power of the goblins around him, and if you get surrounded, then you'll be in a lot of trouble. So in the first method, we'll focus all of our damage on Ragzlin, and in the second, we'll focus on taking out the goblins extremely fast. For Ragzlin, we can use the choke point to shoot him from the high ground. Grease up the stairs to make sure that it takes a long time for everyone to get to you, and climb up the ladder to get the elevation bonus. Bless yourself with the power of friendship, drop down the fire by taking out the hinges, and focus all of your shots on Ragzlin. You may want to use the hide bonus action before you attack so that you have a bonus chance to hit from the high ground, and make sure that you connect all of your range attacks before he even gets close to you. If you have Hex on Will, use the strength version for a disadvantage on his attacks if it gets to a point where he is in close proximity. When a couple of goblins get close to climbing the ladder, you may shoot a barrel if you have one placed there, or simply set the ground on fire with a firebolt from either Shadowheart or Gale. Continue shooting from the high ground and setting the goblins on fire until everything is clear. The whole battle should take you about 6 rounds maximum. At the end, make sure that you loot Ragzlin for his hammer. To take out the goblins extremely fast without using barrels, we have to get a little bit personal and risky. Bless yourself with the power of friendship, move Will on higher ground close by, and everyone else right in the middle of the goblins. Make sure Gale's magic armor is on, and use the thunder wave to blast the goblins into the spider pits. Some of them might make a successful saving throw on your first try, and focus the rest of your party, primarily Shadowheart in the front. Use each party member to focus on individual goblins, and Gale on using his AoE spells to reposition them into the pits. On the second round, reposition your party from the middle to the sides to avoid Ragzlin pushing anyone inside of the spider pits. Or, if you have bigger balls than the average woman, stay in the middle and face Ragzlin head on. By this point, you should have 2 or 3 goblins still alive. Hex and ignore Ragzlin for 2 more rounds while focusing everyone's damage on a single goblin nearby, or attempt to push Ragzlin into the spider pits using Gale's Thunder Wave and everyone's push ability. Try to avoid doing both because it might put you in a bad position by spreading your actions on multiple objectives. Once you take out the goblins, whether Ragzlin is down in the pits or next to you, burst him down with Shadowheart spells, Will's Eldritch Blast, and possibly the magic missiles, Ray of Fire, or Chromatic Orb from Gale. The hammer from Ragzlin is a great weapon if your main character is proficient in it, or if you're using lae'zel as a designated frontliner. Just keep in mind that using the spiders to aid you in the battle against the goblins might aggro the whole camp in your direction, which just means you'll get more experience. I hope this video helped you and you learned something, dudes. Have fun and have a beautiful day.